Welcome to this little talk about political science at Trinity. I hope you're finding it a useful day today. I'm not going to use this unless people really want me to. Can everyone hear me all right? Yeah. Yes? Okay. I do notice that you've learned, most of you, it looks like you've learned the first important lesson about studying at university, which is that when a professor is giving a lesson, at all costs sit as far away from him as possible, because most PhDs actually have cooties, and so you want to not come in contact with them if you can avoid it. The next important lesson you'll want to learn is that once you start going to tutorials, if the lights are not on, whatever you do, don't turn them on. I've noticed that's fascinating around here. I walk into a room and it's pitch dark and there's like 7 students sitting in there or whatever. They're waiting for me to turn on the lights. I don't know why, but it's apparently an important lesson that you'll want to learn when you study at university. So that's just general lessons that you will need whatever you choose to study here. I'm going to try today to focus more on lessons that will be pertinent to you if you are considering studying political science. So I'm going to do this by trying to answer 4 questions for you. Let me get this out of the way. There we go. 4 simple questions for you. A what question, a why question, a where question, and a how question. So pretty simple. First we'll talk about what is political science. Then we'll talk about why should you study political science. Where should you study political science? And how do you study political science? What's involved with studying political science? And hopefully we should have a couple minutes at the end for questions and that kind of thing, so if I don't cover it, you should feel free to come and talk to me. So we'll start with a big one. We'll start with the question of what is political science? That's a little tricky question to answer, so as a way of trying to answer that, I'm going to suggest we go to the source of all knowledge in the world, Wikipedia. By the way, that's a joke. I hope you all know. Hopefully you all learned that at some point. But if you come to a class here and you complete your papers by reference to Wikipedia, do not give my name as a reason why you did this, please. So, what does Wikipedia have to say? Here's Wikipedia on political science. Political science is a social science discipline concerned with the study of the state, government, and politics. Well, that's helpful as long as we know what the state and government and politics is, but those are kind of big words too, so we might want a little bit more insight into what those words mean. So, what do we have on those? Let's go look at the state, or let's look at politics here. Politics, as a term, is generally applied to the art of or science of running governmental or state affairs. Okay, we're still getting those words like government and state quite a lot. Can that help us out here at all? Okay, here we go. How about government? Government is broadly defined as the administrative organization with authority to govern a political state. Okay, we still don't know what a state is. That kind of be helpful, wouldn't it? Okay, can we get that maybe? Oh, here we go. A state is an organized community living under a unified political system, the government. Well, we were trying to figure out what the government is, so I'm not sure how big a help that's going to be for us. Maybe if we can find out what a political system is, because that looks important here. Political system is a system of politics and government. Okay, well, that's not going as smoothly as you might want, so let's try this again. Let me try from scratch. Let me give you my own definition of what I take this political science to be about, and we'll take it from there. Political science, as far as I'm concerned, is the study of the ways that we make decisions regarding how we live together. The idea is we all have to come together in various systems, in various organizations, various institutions. We have to live together, we have to get along, and we're going to need to make decisions of various kinds in order to do that. And political science is the study of how all that works. And not only how it works, but also how it ought to work, because it's about things like studying questions about democracy, for example. It's like, what would you like the systems that we use to determine how we live together to look like? Questions like that. It's a pretty big definition. It certainly covers all the usual kind of stuff that you would associate with political science, you know, with politics. politicians, all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, it's also a little bit bigger than that. Because after all, you could say to yourself, wait a minute, decisions get made in all kinds of places. They get made in families, for example. And sometimes people are not happy with the way those decisions come out. He looks darker and more evil than he does on my screen, so I'm sorry about that. I don't quite know why your version of him, he looks a little bit like a young Darth Vader or something. I don't know, but he looks a little cheerier on the version on my screen here. So I don't know what to tell you about that. That's actually, I come from, as you probably guessed from my accent, I come from the United States, and actually that's actually what most politicians in the United States look like, pretty much the exact same expression on their faces, so you kind of have to get used to that if you do wind up in the United States. But the question is, well, all right, if you think about political science as being all about the way we make decisions regarding how we ought to live together, isn't that going to include all kinds of stuff, like families, like corporations, like non-government organizations, all kinds of places where we have to make decisions of various kinds? And the answer would be yes. It does encompass, I think, all of that. And so it's going to be very closely related to quite a number of other fields that you would also associate with the social sciences. It's going to be very close, for example, to economics, or to sociology, or to psychology. That's one of the reasons why, I'll jump ahead for a minute, why at Trinity, when you study political science, you usually do so in combination with other disciplines that bear on other aspects of the same kinds of problems that political science tackles. So, at least as far as I'm concerned, we shouldn't sweat the boundaries of the field very often. You know, where exactly political science ends and some of the other fields like economics begin. It's one of those questions that you, frankly, shouldn't care about as long as you can say to yourself, I'm addressing something that's very important, and what could be more important than understanding the way that we make decisions about all of the important areas of our common lives. So for me, that says, okay, political science is pretty important. And it's got a couple of subfields, a couple of special areas of interest. I should flag those for you. For example, there's specifically the study of Irish politics. Now, as I said before, I'm American, and so I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I hope you're all sitting down for this, because this might be a little shocking. But when you study political science in the United States, they do not call Irish politics one of the subfields of the discipline. That's not, you know, when people are studying at Harvard or whatever, they don't say, well, I could study that, or I could study Irish politics. No, that really doesn't generally happen, honestly. I think the reason we call Irish politics a subfield has a little something to do with the fact that we're in Ireland. If you were in the United States, you would study American politics, but the general idea is you study the political system in which you happen to be embedded and try to really get to know how it works and why it works the way it does. So that's going to be one of the major subfields of politics. We've also got comparative politics. And comparative politics is particularly concerned with not focusing on one political system or one state like the Irish political system, but also looking at a comparison and saying, all right, what are the features that the Irish political system has in common with the British political system, the Canadian political system, the American political system, and what are the differences? And do those differences affect how the countries function differently? You try to make comparisons and try to draw conclusions about which features of the political systems are key, what things lead to very different political outcomes in different systems. So that's going to be another of our major subfields. We also have the study of international relations. International relations is concerned with of course, with the relations between political systems, with how does business get conducted between Ireland and the United States, or Canada, or Australia, or what have you, or what determines that. This is going to be closely related, of course, to the study of EU politics. The European Union is a subject that we devote a lot of attention to in our department. A lot of interest in how politics happen at the EU level and what determines that and that kind of thing. And this is all part of relations between different political systems. So that's going to be an important subfield that you're going to want to pay attention to. And the last of the major subfields is called political theory. This happens to be the area that I work in myself. Political theory is particularly concerned with the ought question I mentioned before. I've said that we care about the way that our political systems work, the way that they produce decisions regarding how we live together, but also we should care about how they ought to make decisions. We want to ask ourselves questions about how would we like our political systems to function and why. So we have to ask questions about our important concepts like democracy and justice and freedom and autonomy and authority and other leading concepts like this, and ask questions about them so that we can determine, all right, if we're trying to get these political systems right, what does getting them right mean? What do we have good reasons for wanting the system to come out one way rather than another? Can we tell a convincing story about that? And that's what we do in the field of political theory. And as you might know, that's going to, of course, require a lot of reference to a lot of sort of great names that have studied it in the past. You studied great names like Plato and Aristotle, and I think we have a picture of one of those sort of great dead guys in the past in the presentation somewhere, so we'll get along to him. But let me move on so that I can give us plenty of time for questions. So here we come to my second topic. I'm going to go a little faster through the next three top questions because I want to make sure we have time to wrap everything up. So why would we want to study political science? Well, the big answer, I think, should be obvious. It's because politics affects pretty much everything. The way I have defined political science is the decisions regarding how we ought to live together. It's going to be pretty big. It's going to be very central, I think, to understanding the world in which we all live. In many ways, a lot of people say that political science is for human beings, kind of like what physics is for rocks. If you're curious about what happens if you take one large rock in space and put another big rock in space, and how they're going to move with regard to each other, that physics, if you want to say what happens when you put a bunch of people together and see, and usually most people are not rocks, and so they do tend to do different things, you're going to want to study political science. There's a famous American political scientist, Harold Laswell, who said politics is all about the study of who gets what, when, and how. And I think that's pretty much covers it, that's going to be pretty much cover a lot of stuff that you probably care about, questions about who gets what, when, and how. Another good reason to study politics, of course, is because it can lead to something interesting that you could do with your life. There's all kinds of possibilities if you have a good grounding in political science. For example, of course, you could get into a job with the government. You could study law, business, work with a non-governmental organization of some kind. We have a lot of people who come through Trinity who have an interest in getting involved with NGOs and that kind of thing. Journalism is, of course, a possibility. One of our PhDs, who used to teach at Trinity for a while, her name was Elaine Byrne. She's a journalist, and she wrote a rather interesting book recently on corruption in Ireland. It was, I have to confess, a rather long book, but what are you going to do? I'm just saying. Anyway, you could go into academia, and then you get to give talks like this and be a smart aleck. That's always a good career option if you have a talent for that kind of thing. Banking, yes, we still put that on there. I'm not quite sure why, but yes, that's a career option for you. And of course, teaching of various kinds, still something we very much need at all times, not just at the university level, but at other levels as well. So many kinds of career options that if you have a good solid grounding in political science, you have available to you. So how about we come to the where question? Where might you want to study politics and political science? Well, this is going to be shocking to you. Again, I hope you're all sitting down. But you could maybe do it at Trinity. That's one possibility you might wish to take seriously. So let me talk to you a little bit about Trinity. I don't know why the pictures are coming out really dark here. I hope you can actually all see. That is actually a picture of Trinity. I hope you can actually see that. It's a little hard. I'm not sure. It's bright as anything right here on my screen here. I don't know why it's doing that. It's quite a university. We're about little over 420 years old now, founded under Queen Elizabeth I, Ireland's top research university. It's We're always ranked pretty much in the top 100 universities in the world. I think we dance around the 50 mark. I'm not sure which side of the top 50 we're on right now. I think we might still be in the top 50, but we're like right around that line. So I don't want to overpromise, and all that. But we do have very much an international reputation. It is, if you go anywhere around the world, if any university people know around the world, in Ireland, they know Trinity College, Dublin. It is definitely have the feeling of a small city within a city. Hopefully you've been getting a sense of that. If you haven't spent much time on the Trinity campus, it can be a rather nice feeling, this feeling, this little enclave in the middle of Dublin. It's quite a campus. I always like to show this picture. The picture on the right, hopefully you've had a chance to see that. This is the old library at Trinity here. It's what you would go to see if you've been to see the Book of Kells. You know, the very next thing you would get to see is you go upstairs and you look at the old library. It's a very beautiful library. If you haven't been up there to see it, you should try to do so. The picture on the left, just in case you're wondering, that's a picture of the Jedi archives on Coruscant in the Star Wars prequels. So I'm not trying to make any point about George Lucas. I'm just showing you a pair of pictures. I'll let you draw your own conclusions from that. Let me tell you a little bit about our department. This, again, rather shady-looking fellow here, as you hopefully know, or you might know, is a guy by the name of Edmund Burke. I mentioned I was going to mention at least one of those sort of great famous dead guys who studied politics in the past. Edmund Burke is one of them. He's actually one of the leading founders of conservative political thought. And he was a Trinity alumnus way back in the 18th century. Wrote a famous book on the French Revolution called The Reflections on the Revolution in France. And if you're very lucky, you might get to read it while you're here. You never know. But let me tell you a little bit about our department. For our size, we're a pretty small department by world standards of top universities around the world. There's about a dozen of us. We're one of the best in the world for a department of that size, I think I can say very firmly. Our specialty in our department, we cover all the major areas I mentioned before: comparative politics, Irish politics, international relations, and political theory. Our specialty is in empirical research into legislative studies, particularly quantitative studies, studies involving statistics and the like. And if you were to specialize in political science, you would probably spend some time learning quantitative research, getting your feet wet with some basic knowledge about how to do statistics, which I think is a very, very useful kind of an exercise, because if you know even a little bit of knowledge can be a very helpful thing when it comes to statistics, because people love to try to bamboozle you, I think, with statistics in the world. And so having a little bit of literacy there can be a very important, you could call a certain kind of vaccination against a certain kind of political hucksterism. It can protect you, make sure that you're not getting bamboozled. So I think that for that reason, even if you were never to do political science research yourself, knowing something about how you do good political science research, particularly good statistical research, can be a very, very helpful thing as you continue on with your career. Bless you. So let's talk about how to study political science a little bit. You got a bunch of options at Trinity. As I mentioned before, Trinity strongly emphasizes a lot of interdisciplinary options, particularly around political science. So political science gets combined together with some appropriate other related disciplines. So let me just briefly mention to you some of the leading options there. The largest, I believe, is the BEST program, Business, Economics, and Social Studies, which combines, as it implies, business and economics. Political science is a part of that. It's a rather large program. And then we also have history and politics, or history and political science. We used to have philosophy and political science. It's still on the list, even though, unfortunately, we are no longer accepting students in that. That program's being phased out. But it's on there just for, for old time's sake and all that. PPES is a very popular and a very strong program. That's political science, philosophy, economics, and sociology. Political science is embedded in a unit at Trinity called the School of Social Sciences and Philosophy, which contains those 4 departments. And so that's a sort of an interdisciplinary grounding in those 4. And it's kind of modeled on, Oxford has a PPE program, philosophy, politics, and economics. And we decided, let's go Oxford one better. Let's throw sociology in there too. Why not? because we believe in giving you value. Anyway. So we have PPES, we also have geography in political science, we have law in political science. These are, again, all designed to give you a chance to study 2 or more of these related disciplines, and you would then have the option later on as to how much you would like to specialize. So, for example, if you were to take PPES, you'd do something like study a little bit of all 4 disciplines in your first year, and then the second year you'd probably study 3 of those disciplines. Your third year you'd study 2 of those disciplines, and then your final year you'd have an option. Do you want to study both of those 2 disciplines one more year, or do you want to specialize in one discipline in your final year? So you've got some choices to make along the way, even as you get some exposure to all of these various areas. I just want to briefly talk to you a little bit about the modules that we offer in our department. We offer a pretty good range of modules. The first year you would be taking whichever program you'd be in, you'll be in the Introduction to Political Science class. That's a very popular class. It is, I think, actually the largest class that Trinity offers. It's a very good class offered by my colleague Jacqueline Hayden. And it's meant to give you a sort of an overall grounding in the kinds of questions that political science asks and some of the kinds of ways that political scientists go about asking it. The questions political scientists ask and the way that political scientists go about answering them. So sort of get your feet wet, get you acclimated into political science before we go on to some of the big substantive classes. In the second year, you would have 3 different options. We have the history of political thought, we have international relations, and we have comparative politics. These big introductions to the 3 of the major subfields: political theory, international relations, and comparative politics. You have a bunch of options by your 3rd and 4th year. So here we're currently offering, we have a research methods course, we have Irish politics, politics of the United States, democracy and development, European Union politics, representation and public opinion. I should flag the research methods course. This is one that's meant to give you some real grounding in how we use statistical and quantitative methods in political science. And it would, I believe, be a prerequisite for you if you were to want to write a dissertation in political science. You might consider writing a dissertation your 4th year, a research project, and you'd have to have a grounding in research methods before you could do that. And then we have a bunch more options the 4th year. We have the research seminar, which is aimed at the people who are going to do dissertations in political science. We have contemporary political theories. That's the one I teach, actually. We have political parties, issues in contemporary politics, contemporary international relations, African politics, politics of inequality, topics in political science. So we have quite a range of options available to you by your 3rd and 4th years that would let you specialize in any of the particular areas of political science you'd like to cover. If you have questions about us, this is the department's email address, paulsci@tcd.ie. This is my email address, pstone@tcd.ie. We also do have an information table, which I believe is in the examinations hall. Yes? Has anyone been there yet? Yes? Okay, I got the location right. Yes? Good. So you should feel free to drop by there and bring any questions you like to them. I also will be around here a couple of minutes, but in fact, I'll take a question or 2 before we leave, but if you want to chat with me when we're done, you're welcome to do that. And with that, I will wish you good luck. Good luck with making your decisions, and thank you for listening. Are there any quick questions I can answer? Any big questions people want to ask? Yes, please.
How are you assessed during the year?
How are you assessed?
During the year. Is it continuous assessment or is it just examinations?
Well, the examinations at the end of the year are usually the biggest component of the assessment. But there will be assessment along the way in the module as well. It varies from module to module. You might have a couple of short assignments to do, or you might, let's say, have a paper to do at the end of each term. For example, in my 4th year class, you would have one paper at the end of each term. That'd be like 20% of the mark, and then the 60% is the exam at the end. There are usually ways that we try to keep in touch with where you are and how you're doing along the way. For example, we offer tutorials. And the tutorials are meant for you to give you up a place where you come and you talk to, and we talk and we explore the issues. And that gives you an ability to come to me with what you're thinking about. It also gives me a way of saying, okay, where are you at? And so we can keep that sort of, that sense of, are we both on the same page, or is one of us getting lost? Those kind of questions. Okay? Any other questions? Please.
How many modules do students do in a year? How many do they choose?
It depends on the program. You would be looking at doing about, I think it's 60 credits worth, credit hours a year. Different departments and different programs will offer a different number of credit hours per module. Like if you're in your fourth year here, all of our fourth year modules, I believe, are 15 credits. They're year-long classes. So the idea would be you would take 4 classes for the year. And that would be a typical fourth year kind of schedule if you were to do that. But like, for example, in philosophy, a lot of their modules are broken down into sort of 5-credit modules. So you'd be taking a bunch of little 5-credit modules. So it's, you're looking at something like 60 credit hours a year as what you're aiming for. Over here, please. Yes. Your questions about the Erasmus program. Yes, we do indeed offer the students the opportunity to study abroad through the Erasmus program. That would be in your 3rd year. I'll tell you that if you are interested in that option, it's never too early to start thinking about that. It's a very good option, but it's very difficult. It can be difficult to get in, especially if you want to go somewhere popular. You know, you want to go to Barcelona or something like that. Yeah, there's a queue there. I mean, you want to be, and so you want to be thinking early. If you're going to be studying somewhere, if you're going to want to go to Barcelona, it helps if your Spanish is real good right from the start, that kind of thing. So thinking about that early can make sure that you can get to a place that you want to go to. Because then, you know, when your 2nd year comes along, you'll be able to make a really convincing case for why you should be able to go to your first choice, or if not your first choice, maybe this is a 2nd choice place if you'd like to do. So, but yes, that's definitely an option. Any other questions? Please.
How do you do dissertation?
Do many people do dissertations? My experience has been it varies a pretty good amount on a year-by-year basis. You know, we all take turns in the department supervising dissertation projects depending on our special areas of interest. Since I've been here, my first year, I've been here, this is my 3rd year teaching in our department. The first year I taught here, I supervised 1 dissertation. Last year I did not supervise any. This year I'm doing 3. So there's a pretty good variation, I think, in terms of the absolute numbers. It's a very good, it's a good option. It's one I would only recommend if you're comfortable with the idea of really specializing in political science, because you have to basically devote your 4th year to doing single honors in political science. And also, like, make sure you've covered your research methods in the 3rd year. And if you do all that, I think it's a very solid thing, and in particular if you were looking into going into postgraduate study. If you're looking to get a master's degree or a PhD, I can tell you from my end, it always counts for a lot, I think, if a student has successfully completed a serious research project, like a dissertation. So if you think you might be considering a career that will involve some kind of research, great idea. Again, it's great to start thinking about it early. You don't have to commit yourself early, but at least start thinking about it early. I think we should call it quits there, but I'll stay around for a couple minutes if you have any other questions. So thank you all for coming.